After years of underperformance, has IBM finally started to turn things around? In the wake of a multi-year decline, shares still down 21% from its all-time highs in 2013. IBM stock seems like it's bottomed, up 14% from the January lows. Now, we know that Warren Buffett has a huge position in IBM. He continues to buy stock. He's got a terrific buyback, an ever-growing dividend. I think that after the last quarter, which was better than expected, things are improving for this company because it's reinventing itself. And part of that reinvention involves an analytics ecosystem that employs cognitive thinking under the rubric of Watson. Now, you may only remember Watson as the company that won Jeopardy back in 2011, but the technology behind that computer has been the driving force behind IBM's $17 billion business of analytics, and it is growing. Watson's a cloud-based platform that can actually learn and reason about giant volumes of data in many languages to help give people the insights they need, especially in the healthcare industry, but also can interpret Twitter, discern suitable investments, even create tasty food recipes, including this dish from my own restaurant, Bar San Miguel. Now, earlier today, I got a chance to chat about this exciting cognitive force with Martin Schroeter. He's IBM's chief financial officer. Take a look. Martin, we're here with basically the brains of the outfit. We're looking at Watson. Tell me strategically what this means to IBM, because we know it's the strategic imperatives group that is much of the future.
It is. It is. So first, welcome to Watson. Thank you for coming here. You know, what Watson really is at its very core is a terrific example of what IBM as a company does, which is build solutions to solve our clients' most difficult problems. So in the case of Watson, Watson represents a few hundred patents, right? A very good example of the prowess of our research team. Now, a few hundred patents is a lot. For our research team, that's like a few weeks of work. But at its very core, it's a set of technologies that we will build a platform around to solve healthcare, for instance. We have announced a new Watson Healthcare unit. That healthcare unit has not only Watson at its center, it has a group of leading partners. It has a few acquisitions that we've made at the same time.
Who have you teamed up with?
So we've teamed up with J&J, Medtronic. We've bought now Phytel and Exploris and brought those onto the IBM platform. They sit on top of Watson. So Watson, again, at its very core, a set of technologies solving a solution that our clients need.
And why can't we as people solve it?
Well, we've been trying, and there are lots of technologies, our brains, and it's our brains that have figured out how to build Watson. So it's not that we've displaced the brain here. What Watson does, though, in the case of healthcare, it has 12 million journal articles in it. There's no doctor that can remember 12 million journal articles. So 12 million journal articles is its reference point. And think about the critical elements of healthcare. It's time sensitive. You need a diagnosis quickly, and you need a diagnosis that's correct. So the correctness of the diagnosis is helped dramatically by completeness. Those 12 million articles go a long way to making sure you have a complete solution. And again, because it's got a lot of computing power, it gets there much, much faster than you could.
Okay, I'm fascinated by that because we spend a lot of time working with orphan drug companies, and obviously they need to find patients. At the same time, I wonder, okay, well, that's all well and good, but how is it remunerative to IBM? So
the way the IBM financial model works with regard to Watson, we're still early stages here. Watson fits into our analytics portfolio. So we have about a $17 billion analytics business last year. Watson is part of that $17 billion. Now, Watson is currently sold as a service. It is only as a service. So we'll monetize Watson on an as-a-service basis with either the providers of healthcare or the payers in the healthcare system. But also, very importantly, we're monetizing Watson through building an ecosystem. So we have made the application programming interfaces, the APIs for Watson, available to a pretty broad range of partners who are now building their applications, some in healthcare, some outside healthcare.
Well, let's talk about outside healthcare, because one of the things that you've mentioned on your conference call is, for instance, IBM's getting involved with social media, but in a way that is lucrative for the companies that are customers of IBM. Can you just explain that to us? Because sometimes that goes over the heads of people.
Sure. So you take our relationship with Twitter. Watson has access to all of the Twitter data, So if you're a retailer and you're trying to figure out what do customers think about my product, or should I anticipate moving my inventory someplace else, or should I anticipate the next trend, you can use all that data now to make a more insightful decision. Whereas before, you were probably using maybe some weather data, maybe some prior history data. But prior history is not always a great indication of where the market's moving. And Twitter is kind of the most real-time that you can get in terms of customer sentiment, if you will, if you're certain retailers. So retailers absorbing all that data, making better decisions.
Does Watson know what I want ahead of when I want it?
Watson has a set of capabilities that are predictive. So Watson can not only think about and observe what is currently in the marketplace, but it can pick up trends because it can categorize information and it can help make links that you wouldn't necessarily make without the completeness of the data and the algorithms that bring it all together. So yes, Watson can be predictive.
All right, now on the conference call, you have stressed social, mobile, cloud, cognitive, that you have to get IBM to be bigger in these without the rest of IBM, which is very important, generates a lot of cash, falling off. How are you able to get, say, the 29-30% of strategic to be larger? You need more customers, more people to know about Watson, or is more people to know about the ecosystem?
Well, it's a few things. So that $25 billion that we talked about that are attached to those strategic imperatives, growing at about 19%, right? Ex-currency, about 19% growth. That grows faster than in the marketplaces in which those solutions operate. So it's already growing 50, 60% faster. The reason it grows so much faster is because of those core businesses where we learn a lot about how our clients operate. We know about where their data is. We know about how their business processes work. So the knowledge we get out of those core businesses allows us to grow at a much, much faster market rate than we would if we didn't have that insight. So that $25 billion without those core businesses, right now probably be less than 20. And it would probably be growing at 11 as opposed to the 19 we grew last year.
All right, so Martin, is it possible that there are many uses of Watson that we're just starting to fathom, given the fact that Watson's bigger than our own skulls?
Absolutely, and that's the reason to build an ecosystem, because in an ecosystem, when you open up APIs, you now have thousands of people out there thinking about how best to use Watson. When we bring our clients in here and we talk about their specific industry and we show them examples that are already used, the creative juices start to flow, we'll get 10 new use cases in every 20-minute discussion. It is phenomenal how big the use cases can become when people can start to be creative, and that's why we opened up the platform.
Okay, you have been very vocal about your relationship with Apple, which to me means that you're in the field with Apple. Apple data from your iPad to Watson, from Watson to your iPad, how's it working? So
in the case of Watson, depending on the use case, so if you look at a healthcare case with a doctor will have all of that Watson output on an iPad. And he'll be able to interact with Watson in order to figure out diagnosis, all on an iPad. But yes, very user-friendly, gets the benefit of the great design that you can find in and around those products and the ease of use. This is a very complex system, so you really need simple ways to interact. And before this, it was either anecdotal or guesswork. You made a couple of phone calls to see who's working on what kind of test? You had obviously a network, right? You have your own education, right? But within all of that, despite all of your best efforts, and we see this in every industry, it's not unique to healthcare, there are obviously biases in the data and biases in your approach to decision making. There are things where just because of bandwidth, you have to exclude them and just to get through the time pressures in your role. And that's true across all industries. So Watson doesn't have those biases. Watson doesn't have bias. All right. Well, thank you to Martin Schroeter, the CFO of IBM. You know what? I would love it if you could show me around. Be terrific.
This room was created to basically let humans understand what Watson is doing. What we put up today for you here on the walls is basically an example in healthcare. This is a 9-year-old boy who came into the hospital with a number of symptoms. The doctors had a very difficult time diagnosing him. We put Watson against that problem, and in a few hours, Watson was able to diagnose that problem. So basically, we took over a week of diagnosis in a hospital and collapse it to a few hours. Watson is a learning machine, so we are using the top institutions in the U.S. to train Watson in the best knowledge and the best protocols. And the beauty of Watson now is that we can scale that globally.
We do a lot of work on Mad Money with orphan drug companies. Would Watson be able to match that patient with where the test is right now?
Absolutely, Jim. Watson can look through all of the clinical trials that are going on around the globe and do the perfect match, something that the doctors just can't keep up with these days.
Gentlemen, can you show me some other applications?
Absolutely. It's not all about healthcare. We've got a lot of other things going on in retail, the financial sector, et cetera. So let's take a walk. So a financial advisor, as you know, is buried in information. So what better than to have Watson behind the scene helping this financial advisor make sense of all of this information in real time.
So if one of our viewers is very interested in particular, they might be fascinated by the Baltic Dry Freight Index, whether that is any correlation with maybe they should be buying an Asian stock.
Do correlations, do understanding. Look for patterns that humans can't find in massive amounts of data. So let's talk about chief marketing officers who want to deal with, the explosion of social media data.
Right.
And basically Watson now can take social media, can take Twitter feeds, can take Facebook information, and find out about the patterns and directions that are going on in the retail industry.
All right, so let's say you're a fast food company and you think, you know what, I think I've developed some foods that are natural and organic. Will my customers want it? Is that the kind of thing they can do?
That's the kind of thing, and look for actually patterns of new things that are developing in the social media.
There's millions of tweets. What kind of pattern can Watson see that I couldn't see or you couldn't see?
Right, so Watson can read multiple language. In a sense, tweets are almost their own language,
right,
as you well know. But Watson can make sense of that. What kind of person are you? What are your preferences and why? Get to individuals and then tailor the programs and the products for that individual.
And the success rate for a customer?
Goes up dramatically with Watson.
Excellent, thank you. Booyah! Jim Cramer here from Mad Money. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube. Click here to subscribe and get the jump on my exclusives with CEOs, plus market news, investing advice, and a whole lot more.